We will start going a bit deeper with one of the cycles, product development. Perhaps we can clarify at this point that product here is a generic term that can refer to both a tangible product, say a web-based platform, or an institutionalized service. Basically, we are talking about something that is a solution to a pain point, where the workflow has been standardized, the cost structure roughly consistent, and so is the potential price point. We are less concerned about what form it takes, whether it is a product or a service. Now you can find all sorts of representations of a new product development cycle online. Most would end up with some semblance of this. You first come up with an idea, and then you research and develop it further into a full-fledged product, and you iterate as necessary. From the concept, you develop it further into a prototype, and again, iterate as necessary. Finally, you will test the prototype repeatedly to get the right feedback until, hopefully, you get your minimum viable product or service. And this again is an iterative process. But we soon realize that if you're a convener, a connector, a broker, or an ecosystem builder like us, there's an added layer of complexity. This complexity lies in the fact that we have no clarity of delivery capability, since it's not fulfilled by us. I'll give an example. If we were a software developer, we would clearly know what our internal capabilities are and propose an idea or concept that is within our means of fulfilling, or close to. However, as conveners, we are the middlemen, and it's quite impossible to match supply and demand when we don't have full clarity of whether the supply is even possible. For example, when Asia P3 Hub first started, we wanted to see how we can leverage on World Vision National Office's footprint to create market-driven solutions. But we don't necessarily know the capability and capacity of each and every national office. Without having clear visibility of that, it is difficult for us to figure out something that is of value that other prospective partners can engage with us. It's almost like selling something that you don't know whether it even exists or can be realistically fulfilled. So we decided to come up with a workaround which we coined as working models. You can call it anything you want, but basically it's just a rough boundary or an operating domain on which we will be operating in. We define at a very high level what is a possible mode of engagement between Asia P3 Hub's partners. We set the parameters so that we have a rough outline for conversation and discussions. So at least we have something to help us define whether a project request is even suitable or not. We set expectations that there are no guarantees that we can definitely do it, as the execution of some of these projects are really outside of our control. The working models will be refined and developed further as we get more clarity on what all parties involved can do. The working models almost feel like a bridge between the certainty and uncertainty. Now we know this may sound a bit confusing, so let us share with you our working models. We decided that we will have 4 working models or operating domains. We will source and match effective solutions with problem statements from the field, co-create solutions that scale, leverage on last mile access of our parent organization World Vision, cultivate and grow the multi-sector ecosystem. Now with this, you kind of know what we want to do, although you may not exactly know how we will do it. And that's precisely the point. We don't either, actually, or at least at the point of time when we first started. So for conveners, ecosystem developers, or middlemen like ourselves, here's how we think you might be able to get a working product starting from a working model. We use some proposed working models to define our rough operating boundaries or just to facilitate conversations. Hopefully, from the various discussions within your working models, you will end up with a suggestion that goes further, resulting in a pilot project. The pilot project will hopefully help us to understand interests of all parties involved, test partnership models, gauge operational viability for future references. If we think the pilot project works, then we try to institutionalize it into something a bit more structured, which will begin to look like a prototype of a product. This prototype should ideally incorporate the key learnings, best practices, and workflows from the previous pilot projects. It should help to validate assumptions and risks with prospective end users and be a tool for testing. But most importantly, the prototype should help the prospective customer understand what the final product will look like. The end goal is we want to result in a minimum viable product or service, which we have defined to be a streamlined, scalable, and working product or service. It has bare-bone features that will fulfill the end user's needs. It has defined early users and customers, and we have a rough idea of a preliminary commercial model. Lastly, we will clarify that working models is a workaround for people who are conveners, brokers, ecosystem builders, where you may not have clarity or full control over the fulfillment of the project. If you actually have more control over the delivery and fulfillment of projects, you might be able to take a more straightforward path, like what we showed you in the earlier part of the video. Now we will go a bit more detail into how we progress from working models to more developed pilots and hopefully products. It is also important to note that all these working models were developed when we were hosted by World Vision International, so they are skewed towards that. The first one, we source for effective partnering solutions for national needs. Now it turns out that we didn't have to look too far for this. When we first started out, Asia P3 Hub was highly focused on water, sanitation, and hygiene. And it seems like Kohler has been a long-time partner of World Vision globally. So we tried to expand on that partnership to the rest of Asia by amplifying the partnership in Vietnam, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, and Philippines. We also tried to take the partnership to the next level by working out a 13-year strategic roadmap between World Vision and Kohler in the region. In the next model, we said we want to co-create scalable platforms and solutions. First, let's define what we mean by scalable. There is a difference between scalability and replicability. Scalability to us means that the more times we do or deploy something, the easier, the cheaper, and the faster it becomes. Now, this is a lot more challenging to achieve. We were fortunate that we got to partner with World Vision Canada, US, and Philippines to build and launch the next iteration of the Social Innovation Challenge platform, or we call it the SIC for short. The SIC is a human-centered design open innovation platform for social impact. Basically, we source for real challenge statements in the developing countries where World Vision serves, curate these challenges, and then put them onto a web platform, inviting contestants globally to participate. We just concluded 4 challenges this time around successfully, and in the next round, we have more countries participating. This hopefully increases the value of the platform and decreases the cost of executing each challenge over time. For the third model, we believe that international NGOs such as World Vision would have an amazing geographical footprint that prospective partners can leverage on in new ways. So we did up a pilot project with a water filtration product company called Solar Water Solutions, where we helped them with market penetration and product testing in Sri Lanka and Indonesia. It is definitely more cost-effective for them to partner with World Vision in these countries than for them to fly their people in themselves to execute these tasks. Finally, we want to be one of the key drivers to cultivate the multi-sector ecosystem. While we did conduct a couple of networking events, one of the more valuable convening projects we did was with Seagate. Basically, we helped Seagate convene a roundtable with government agencies, prominent companies, and even World Vision China to discuss on e-waste generated by printed circuit boards and its impact on the environment. The entire project also resulted in a detailed white paper which you may download from the Asia P3 Hub website if you are interested. So in summary, these are the 4 working models that Asia P3 Hub came up with. Again, please note that all these working models were developed when we were hosted by World Vision International, so there is a huge slant towards working with World Vision. We won't elaborate on this, but in case you are interested, we have taken different working models to different levels of maturity. Some at the minimum viable product stage, some are still in solution prototyping stage. Now pause the video and sketch some rough working models or operating domains that you may be developing for your organization.